The sound of water running in the shower was the only noise filling the house, wrapping it in an unreal calm. The hot droplets crashed against my skin like tiny embraces, leaving steaming trails along my body. I felt tired, empty, as if I were living a life that didn't truly belong to me. I had been married to Mark for 7 years. Together, we had built an apparently perfect life, a house in the suburbs, a stable job, a reassuring daily routine. But something had changed. The nights had grown cold, kisses became rarer, caresses forgotten like faded old memories. The desire had faded, replaced by a silent distance that I couldn't bridge. Mark was increasingly absent, consumed by business trips, conferences, and endless meetings. I remained alone, trapped in a void that was growing inside me. That morning, as I indulged in a long, relaxing shower, an unexpected noise shattered my solitude. The bathroom door opened slowly. My heart leaped into my throat. I thought it was Mark, returning unexpectedly, but I knew that was impossible. "Sorry, I didn't know you were here." The deep and steady voice of Charles, my father-in-law, caught me off guard. He stood frozen on the threshold, his scent of tobacco and sandalwood filling the room, blending with the steamy heat of the shower. Charles had always been a constant presence in our lives. After his wife passed away, he started spending more time with us, as if seeking refuge in our routine to fill his own void. I instinctively covered myself with my hands, but I couldn't ignore the sudden tension that hovered in the room. His gaze wasn't just surprised. There was something deeper, an unspoken spark hidden in the shadows of his time-worn face. "I didn't mean to disturb you," he said in a soft voice, yet he didn't move. He remained there, his eyes still on me, loaded with something I couldn't decipher. I should have told him to leave. I should have reacted, but I didn't. If this story has intrigued you so far, leave a comment. What do you think Sophie should do? Stop before crossing the point of no return or give in to her emotions? The moment stretched on infinitely, a silence heavy with expectations. Then Charles took a step forward. My heartbeat quickened, my trembling hands unable to find an anchor. I felt his breath mingling with the steam of the shower. When he reached out to brush my face, I shuddered. "You're beautiful," he murmured, and those words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I had to stop him. I had to stop myself. But desire has a cruel way of slipping into the void left by absence. The kiss came unexpectedly, slow and charged with long-repressed passion. I hadn't felt this alive in years. The guilt came later, like a tide crashing over me when it was already too late. When we pulled away, the silence between us was louder than any words. "I won't say anything," Charles whispered before leaving the bathroom. But the secret was already a weight that would mark us forever. The following days were torment. Every time I crossed paths with Charles, the memory of that morning surfaced like an unavoidable shadow. I felt him everywhere, in the sound of footsteps on the wooden floor, in the clinking of ice in the whiskey glass. He sipped every night in the way his gaze avoided mine, but could never quite let go. One evening, while tidying up the kitchen, Charles entered from the terrace. I sensed his presence before even seeing him. "Sophie," he said in a low voice, filled with restrained emotion. I turned slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. "We can't go on like this," I said in a hushed voice. "I know," he replied, "but I can't pretend nothing happened. And you?" There was a cruel truth in his words. We both knew this hadn't been just a mistake. It was an unstoppable desire that had pushed us beyond every limit. From that day on, I tried to win Mark back. I organized romantic dinners, weekend getaways, anything to reignite the passion between us. But the wall between us remained intact. And Charles, he was always in my thoughts. One evening, I found an old letter that Mark had written to me at the beginning of our marriage. It was full of promises, dreams, hopes. I read it with tears in my eyes, wondering where we had lost our way. It was then that I realized I couldn't live in regret anymore. I had to make a choice. I gathered my courage and talked to Mark. I didn't confess the truth about Charles, but I told him that I felt lost, that I needed to find myself again. He looked at me for a long time, the pain in his eyes cutting deeper than anything else. "Then take the time you need," he finally said. I left home for a while, searching for answers. When I returned, Mark was still there, waiting for me. We decided to start over, one step at a time, without pretending the past had never existed. Charles slowly drifted away, understanding that his presence would only make things more complicated. There was never a true goodbye between us, only a gradual separation that left space for healing. In the end, I realized that betrayals aren't just physical acts, but fractures of the soul that we try to fill in the wrong ways. I don't know if Mark and I will ever be the same as before, but I do know that sometimes love deserves a second chance. Do you think a relationship can truly be rebuilt after a betrayal? Leave your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more captivating stories.